All right, cool. Thanks. I appreciate that.
All right, what's up, fam? What's going on, guys? It's your girl Gladia. I got my co-host Tim Park. This is Get the Bag podcast, episode 2. Ayo,
So
Tim, we survived the first one.
I know, right? We did. We did.
We did. What's
Shoot,
going on?
shoot.
So, really excited topic today. I think it's something that resonates with the both of us being athletes, and just talking about how that our sports background has really helped kind of build up our career, entrepreneurship, you name it, life in general. It's just benefited us a ton. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to share 3 tips that we've firmly believe has really catapulted us in the career that we have now. But yeah, Tim, what's going on, man? I can't believe it's already Christmas coming up.
I know it's Christmas time. It's like um, it's a situation where we're a couple days away, a few days away now.
Yeah,
Man, it's crazy. Um,
yeah.
just getting some last minute shopping in, but you
Oh,
know,
you a last minute shopper?
on some things, it's just like usually shop throughout the year, but
Right.
I just had to get some little knickknacks. Got some more money in the account.
No, yeah, that helps for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure,
for sure.
wifey appreciates that.
Yeah, yeah. So so that's cool. It's been I it's crowded out there too at the
Oh
stores.
man, yeah,
And
yeah. I was just at the mall the other day too, picking up something, and man, people just walking around, and I'm just like, bro, give me some space, and I'll be standing so close in line. So,
exactly. Well,
uh,
I'm excited about this. This topic. As you know, we're both athletes. We come from that background, and I know that it's been integral in business and life and everything. So
absolutely.
let's go ahead and hit the 3 tips, and kind of go from there. You shoot it off, and then we'll go from there.
All right, sounds good. So, I think athletes in general, people, unless you've been an athlete yourself, you don't really. It's hard to understand that. Obviously, people have different passions, but there's something about sports. Whether you're working on a team now, there are those individual sports, but there's something about sports that really builds character, builds like lifelong skills that you don't really think of it in the moment, but in the long run, you look back, you're like, oh yeah, I can see like where that came from.
Right.
And the one of the first tips, and maybe we'll dig a little bit in a bit later, we'll dig into like our personal like sports background. But one of the first tip that we really felt has helped us is reconnecting with our
Hmm.
previous teammates.
That's
And
right.
because after high school or college, we go off and do our thing, right? Like we're just trying to make it. And so to reconnect and to see like what they're up to, sometimes we don't even think of it as like networking. We're like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, they're just my old teammate. But I know you have some prime examples of how that's kind of benefited you and like reconnecting with previous teammates that you used to play back in college and ball.
Hmm.
I played basketball, and reconnecting with previous teammates or coaches, and just seeing what they're doing, and then sharing what I'm doing, and somehow finding a connection there. Like, oh wait, you're doing real estate. Like, oh,
Hmm.
so am I. Like, let's connect. Let's work together. I think that's a really. I think that's a big thing that people forget. Coming from a sports background, is like utilizing your own network that you've built already. That
Right.
you've connected with already. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I know you have a really awesome story to share about like how you've reconnected with old teammates.
Yeah. I think it's a big part of you having those relationships, and utilizing those relationships when you have your own business or get into your own business or thinking about starting your own business. And for me, I was fortunate enough to play ball in college, and like we kind of talked about the other day, it's like, we go to war basically with these, your teammates, and basically, going to the game, going to practice, film, everything. So for those, as small of a time of years that you're doing that, you kind of create this underlining bond, that like brotherhood or sisterhood or whatever the case may be with your teammates. And and that never goes away. Like, you might not see them for years, and then you may connect at an event or see them at somewhere else, just visiting home, and you reach out to them and see how they're doing, and then you kind of get an update, and tell them what you're doing, and kind of go from there. And my story is, which helped me, was when I got into real estate, I was able to reconnect with some of my teammates. And I wasn't even in LA. I was in Houston.
Right.
And so I was, there for, of course, the Generational Wealth Tour. And, it was an amazing event, one. Two, I wanted to reconnect with some of my teammates that, lived in the Houston area. So we had dinner, reconnected with them. They're like, hey, you need to call so-and-so, and then one of my friends couldn't make it to the dinner. And so he was able to give me a call the next day, and then we chopped it up. And he was like, I'm in real estate too, and let me introduce you to this investor and all this, and it snowballed from there. Like it was pretty cool how that synergy. But it's kind of what we talked about before, was like, when you don't see your teammate for a while, but you have that bond, right?
Right.
So it's like no time is lost, and then you share war stories and stuff like that, and funny moments, and so we spent on the phone just laughing at different things that happened, during our time playing ball. So I think people don't underutilize their connections, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay. I mean, you don't have to, sell them on what you're trying to do. You just have to tell them what you're doing, and be interested in what they're doing, and provide value for them. Even give them some tips on real estate if they ask you, or how you can help them out in their career or what they're doing. So,
it's huge.
Yeah, and it's a thing too where I talk to some of my teammates on a regular. These are people that I haven't talked to maybe in a few months or a couple years or whatnot. But so just getting that connection, or reconnection, I should say, there just makes a difference too. And I know that too. So it's definitely a situation where reconnecting is very important.
Absolutely.
In business journey. So.
Yeah, and I feel like anytime we think of like networking, we think like we have to think outside the box, or we have to like meet new people. But like, why not look to reconnect with the people, like, they're kind of maybe along the same journey you are, at our age, where I'm not going to age us by any means, but like, but the people that we went to high school with, college with, they're along the same path as we are. So don't overestimate, or underestimate, I should say, the power of the people that you knew before. Like, reach out to them. I follow pretty much anybody I went to high school with, or played college ball with. I know I have connections with them on Instagram, Facebook. I don't use Facebook as much, but sometimes, like, it's just nice to just check in and be like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, let's catch up if I'm ever in town. So you, like you said, you always have that bond, and they're like family, like, for me. So I consider a lot of these people family. So why
Absolutely.
not, like, go into your contacts, your previous contacts, and see how they're doing. And it's always about adding value too. You're not just picking their brain just for your own benefit. Like, you ultimately care about what they're doing. So I think that's a huge thing that, previous athletes should absolutely do. And not just previous athletes, but just anybody where you just connected with someone. Maybe you were in a band, which I consider sport in a sense. Or if you were in a club for something, like, reach back out to the people that you connected, because you never know like where they're at. They may be in the same position.
Right.
Shoot, they may be like a huge investor. They work for a hedge fund, and they can, like, easily help you out. So I think that's a huge part.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring out. But, it doesn't have to be a sport. It could be, like you're saying, band or a club or something that you're involved in, where, you kind of shared the same activity, with somebody and created that bond. So it's definitely
Absolutely.
a situation where, I didn't go to a big college. Mine was a private college, so we didn't have fraternities or anything like that. So, there's a certain bond when you have a fraternity, right? Too. So, or sorority or whatever the case may be. But in my situation, I didn't have that. I just was in a situation where I, played ball and, built these friendships and brotherhood and this family,
Right.
Even coaches I talk to are doing something different, right? Too.
Right.
Which is great because, they were really essentially your mentor, your kind of almost first mentor.
The first mentor. Absolutely. You looked up to these people.
Yeah, they believed in you. So, so reconnecting with someone that actually believed in you and gave you a chance, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. I even think about the mentorship aspect of it, and that our coaches, or maybe like an older teammate, if you came in as a freshman and you had a senior that really took you under their wing. I think, that's a huge one, that where it's like you had people that believed in you, like, hey, you can do this. Like, I'm gonna walk you through. I'm gonna hold it down for you and be there for you. And anytime I run into coaches too, they're always like, wow, like, look at you now. Like, look at where you're at now, to see, like, they literally have seen you grow up in front of their eyes. So
Absolutely.
I love that. So I think Reconnect, that's definitely a big part of kind of like building your sports background and how it can kind of grow. But I think kind of going to the second tip, which I think is a really important thing that gets you through entrepreneurship, right? Is that mental toughness, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think sports, like, if you're successful in sports, you have to have some sort of mental toughness, because things aren't ever going to go your way. You're not like, I played basketball. I'm not scoring 30 points or more every game. I'm not, Curry or Harden by any means. I tried though. I like to say I was the Curry back in the day. I used to have that range I could shoot, because I wasn't that tall. But like,
you be shooting that three and then you be walking away and say next.
Man, I used to have highlights too. I need to go through my storage. They're like on VCRs. Again, aging my ass, but like, you see me falling through.
That's fun.
But like seriously, mental toughness has gotten me through a lot of stuff in my life, through sports in general. Just like going through the tough times, and I'm sure there's a lot of things you can share. But like for me, I've gone through injuries, even like post playing career, within, like, when I was in college, I had aspirations. Like, I was like, I'm going to reach the WNBA. I'm going to be one of the first Latinas in the WNBA, and like, I had all these aspirations. Like, literally basketball was my life. Like, I think I was talking about in the previous episode, is like, I was very sheltered growing up. So like, it was literally basketball school. And so I've like literally envisioned myself like playing in the WNBA, and I had that mental toughness, because people didn't see me like that. They were like, "Oh, she's short." I wasn't very fast, but I knew how to play. I had heart, and so that being that underdog also kind of built that mental toughness. And like, "Oh, you don't think I can do it?" Like, all right, let me show you. and just proving people wrong. And I always took that with me, like everywhere I go, people, for some reason, because I'm quiet, I'm chill, like, people don't really think about me in a certain way. I may look a certain way, like I'm gonna beat you up. Like people are always like, until they start talking to me. But then
Right.
it's like, people somehow underestimate, like always underestimate us, the silent killer. I always think that. But having that mental toughness has really got me through some tough parts of my life. One of them being like having a really severe knee injury that sidelined me for like 6 months. I couldn't really walk. I had a brace on for like 6 months, and I couldn't do the things I loved. I loved moving. I couldn't even work. I was on disability. And it was definitely one of the darkest times of my life because, you kind of underestimate just moving around and doing everyday stuff.
Right.
And it really was that mental toughness that like, got me through it. And I still utilize it now where it's like things don't always go your way in entrepreneurship. You have to be ready for changes, things to, flip the script. So really having that mental toughness really gets you through where it's like, I can do this. It's gonna pass. So yeah, it's been a game changer for me. And it's kind of built off, or kind of grown, in my mental toughness in a different way where it's like, when you're young, you're just kind of like in the grind, and you still are, but like,
Yeah.
you're kind of like grown up, right? Like you have to look at things a little bit different.
Sure.
But I'd love to hear kind of what your like how mental toughness in your sports background, because you play football, so you have to be tough.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of ups and downs. Just playing the sport too, because even though you're teammates, you're also competing for a position, right?
Right.
So, and you have to be mentally kind of, I guess, prepared that your job could be taken away, right? And so you have to practice like every day is your last day that you're going to be at that position, right? So
Right.
you know I could catch and I was fast, right? So I had two things, but the one thing I had to work on was my route running, right? So that's I always got in my head about route running. So I always, try to emulate someone that was really good at route running. Because I couldn't in the college level, you can't really rely on your speed because everybody's almost at the
Just as
same speed.
fast.
Yeah. So in high school, it's totally different, right? And but the mental toughness is that when I had to share my position, right, and that we are alternating starting, right, and but ultimately I knew it's a team game, right? But I
Right.
had to kind of swallow the pride and to be like, okay, let me work on myself and try to get better. So I don't want to share this position, and
Mm.
and that was something I had to wrap my head around mentally, you know, uh, because your voice in your head is like you're not good enough, or
Right.
the coaches don't think you're good enough, so this is why you have to share this position, right? And
Right.
so just overcoming that and learning how to kind of adapt and believing in yourself too. So I know that I feel like the industry I'm in now with real estate, it's definitely ups and downs, and you have to have that mental toughness to get through the low times, right? The high times are always going
Oh
to be
yeah, it's
great,
smooth sailing. Like,
right?
oh man, this is gonna happen the rest of my life, right? Like you
Right.
just feel like
And it's like a situation you know, and I think I've talked to, when, we have our coaching sessions and stuff like that with Chris, and I kind of explained that there was a low, like, I wasn't getting any deals for like 3 months or whatever. And so, and I was in my head about that too. And I was like, man,
Mm-hmm.
but I got to keep going, right? I have to still believe in the process, one, two, believe in myself, knowing that's going to happen, and then just moving forward, right? Because I talk to a lot of people, whether they're business owners, they work for somebody, or they're in, our field, real estate, and they're thinking about, not, they're quitting, they're thinking about quitting, right? So, and
Yeah.
I guess we have to find out why is that, one, and what's stopping them from it. Is it them saying that they can't do it, or is it something else preventing them? And how do you find that solution to get around that or overcome that? Right?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think there's a term for that too. It's which I've dealt with in my career, professional career, not just like entrepreneurship, is imposter syndrome,
Right.
where you go into something, especially if you're new, you're not necessarily an expert by any means, but even if you are an expert, like you still, you come in there and you hesitate, you doubt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have, like you mentioned, you have those the the voices in your head saying,
Sure.
am I built up for this? I don't
Yeah.
know. Like you question yourself. And I think everybody goes through that. I've even talked to people who are CEOs, and he's like, I go through imposter syndrome every day. And that's a CEO that's running a
Mm-hmm.
company. So it's like, you're not
Right.
alone in feeling that, am I doing this right? Who cares? Just you're doing
Right.
it, right? Like that's all that
Mm-hmm.
matters. And I'm so glad you also mentioned about going through the real estate droughts. I think we call them droughts, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
you go through times where you don't get deals, and that's where that time is where people give up.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Mm-hmm.
where they're like, oh, it's not working. I'm not meant for it. And that's why I feel like entrepreneurship, you really need that mental toughness, because you're
Yeah.
going to go through that. Even I think Chris even talks about how there's times where, things just don't go his way, but he's not going to stop what he's doing. You have to keep going. You have to build that consistency, because it's not always going to be downhill.
Right.
It's going to come up at some point, because you're putting in consistent action.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry about like not knowing things, because there's still stuff I don't know in real estate. There's still stuff I don't know even in my current job,
Right.
that I'm learning. But I'm not gonna give up and quit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. That's maybe where that mental toughness comes in, where it's like, I know there's better days ahead. I know the other side of the situation, and it's
Mm-hmm.
always going to get better. You just got to keep that momentum going, keep that consistency. Don't stop doing what you're doing. Just take action, and the
Mm-hmm.
rest will follow. But I think imposter syndrome is a huge part, where it's like people talk themselves out of success.
Right. Right.
Like,
And
yeah.
the other thing is that I think you make a good point, is that people talking themselves out of the situation. So
Right.
and I think this is one of the most important tips, right? It's one of the keys in any kind of whether you're working for somebody, or you're working for yourself, or you have your own business. Um, the mental toughness is key to being definitely successful on it, because you're overcoming some doubt, or overcoming a low point in your journey, right?
Right.
And if you can overcome that and push forward, then you're always going to be successful, because you can look back and say, man, I was at my lowest point, but I made it here, right?
Right.
And that's always a confidence builder, at least for me,
Yeah.
for achieving that and overcoming that low point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be the last time. Like, I'm sure we're going to have another, like,
Oh yeah.
there's stuff I'm going through right now in my business, where I'm just trying to handle figure things out right now, and I don't have it figured out. And
Mm-hmm.
there's those days where I'm like, geez, I'm putting in a hell of effort, and I'm seeing things come up, but it's like we're also built in the instant gratification, right? Where it's like we need to see our results right away, and that's just not realistic. Some people are anomalies that can just like somehow just kick it off, but maybe they had systems in place.
Right.
But it's not going to be easy, and anything you do isn't going to be easy. But I think society, seeing people on Instagram with all these flashy things, oh yeah, I did this in a month. I got 100K in a month, or I got this and that. We
Mm-hmm.
compare, again, going back also to comparing ourselves,
Right.
and that messes with our mentals. With the way we handle problems, and we give up. We live in a society where it's like we want the easy way out. If it's not easy, I don't want it. And I think we're again talking about the percentages of people who succeed in their business.
Right.
It all starts with action and mentality. If you don't even have that, if you're not even taking action whatsoever, and you're not like mentally tough to like go through the tough times, you're not gonna make it. Like,
No.
just keep it real. It's just not gonna happen. You got
No.
to build that mental toughness, and going back to our last episode, is having that support system. So yeah, we can go on and on. Like, mental toughness, mentality can probably be its own episode, probably.
I know. Just having that, like, that's why I mean, like, even Kobe had, it's the Mamba mentality, right? And a lot of people, successful people, have adopted that mentality, right?
Right.
So man, yeah, we can go on and on and on. So
Absolutely. So I think yeah, that was really great information. But kind of going into our third tip, which is even bigger as well. Each tip is just as important,
right,
but the third being accountability. Like, sports builds that. Like,
huge,
you can't hide from accountability. You can't be
right,
like, well, I they didn't catch it, or they
right,
didn't they
right,
didn't show up to practice. Like, you're there, right? So
right.
for me, playing ball, like, practice was everything. Not just showing up, but being present was being
Mm-hmm.
there. If you weren't like present or like giving it your all in practice, you weren't going to play in the game, or you weren't a starter.
Yep.
I was I think my freshman year in high school, I played on the JV team because our varsity team was like really, really good. We went to like California, they call it CCS, I think. I don't even know anymore. But like but I was brought on for the playoffs. And it's because I worked my ass off to get there. And I was, I'm not gonna brag, but I was pretty skilled as well.
Mm-hmm.
I could shoot the ball.
No doubt.
That was my strength. That was my strength. And so going in there, I was a little cocky, but I always went in with that mentality, like, I'm going to outwork you, because I always felt like I had that, the monkey on my back of like, people really underestimated me. And so having that accountability, especially once you become a captain,
Yeah.
you can't, especially when you're a
No.
captain, or like, the owner of a business owner, you have to, it's all on you. Like,
Right.
your
Right.
team's performance, your own performance,
Right.
your team's energy, it's all falls on you. You can't hide from that. So there is definitely times where I got on my teammates to work a certain way, or to, they weren't maybe playing the way I expected them to do. But then I maybe had a bad game. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't, that puts you in a tough position too, because you're like, well,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you gotta, play this way, and I played like shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it makes it tough in that case. But like, that's what comes with the responsibility, right, of being a captain,
Yeah.
playing in sports, is like, you gotta be woman enough, man enough to be like, hey, I fucked up, I messed up there, but I'm gonna do my best, I'm gonna learn from it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna keep it up. It's the next play mentality, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, I think accountability, again, people like to run away from accountability. Their ego just cannot accept like making mistakes, and that's just part of being human, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
No, I totally agree because, in sports, you see it all the time. You'll be watching football or, basketball or something, and, someone misses a shot, someone drops the ball, and they always tap their chest because they know, hey, it's my fault, right?
Right,
The
right.
quarterback throws it, out of reach, and he's like, that's me. He's pointing
Right.
to himself. So
Right.
you see the accountability in those actions. So why don't you have the accountability in your business, right? So you have to apply, because the only one checking you is yourself, right?
Right.
So a lot of people don't check themselves, and having that sports mentality is, it's okay for you to say that was my fault, like I messed up or whatever, because it's a learning experience for your business, and it helps you grow, and it helps you be successful, so you know what not to do again, right?
Yeah, you can't dwell on it, right? You gotta
Yeah,
accept it. All right, I messed up. Keep it moving. On to the next.
absolutely. So you definitely, in sports, you have to take that accountability, and applying that to your business or your everyday life, I think, is crucial too. So I'm the first one to say I don't do that very much, right? But
Right.
I do that because I still have that sports mentality to be aware of that, right? And that's, I'm not saying if you didn't play sports, you don't have that. A lot of people have an ability that even play sports. That was through experience from something else, right?
Right.
But we're just saying accountability is an important element of, being successful in whatever you do, right? And what's helped us is, the sports aspect of that, right? And I think we, even I think going back to the coaches, when the coaches talk about the game, they talk about we lost the game because of our plays or the way we were coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
They try to take responsibility for the loss. When, we all say it's a team sport, but when the game is on the line, it's either the quarterback or the coach that takes responsibility. And and then you have the locker room dynamic where, you're like, you speak in front of the team and you said, hey, that was my bad. I dropped like 5 balls, everything. And then, everybody kind of, and that's where the locker room is the safe environment, right? And so you can speak freely. So when you have your business, you can speak freely to yourself, right? And say, I didn't make those calls today. I'm accountable for that. I didn't do that, right? And then it just falls back into what we talked about earlier with the mentality, right? So I did, I'm accountable for that. I know what I did, so let's move on and let's get it done now, right? So
yeah, and I think also it's you're talking about the locker room dynamic. You have a good team when your team is there for you when you messed up, especially when they know, because you've been there. I've been there where it's like I don't hit the game-winning shot, or I had a turnover at the wrong time that led us to lose the game, or I did something right, and you automatically put your head down,
right?
Because you feel like, because you gave it your all, and like it just didn't go your way. If you have teammates not being there for you, or like keeping you down, that's terrible. And I think it also comes down to your support system, which again we talked about last week. If you in your business, especially when you're by yourself, you're gonna have those times where you have your head down because of something you did. Maybe you made a mistake on something, you lost a deal, if we're sticking to real estate, and you put your head down. It's up to your support system to lift you up, to be there for you and be like, hey, it wasn't your time this time, you're going to learn from it, and let's keep it moving. because that's where that team and that sports kind of background, or just anything, just being a good friend, being a good partner, where we lift each other up. We don't keep each other down. If you're keeping me down, I can't mess with you. And so that's where the locker room dynamics, it's tough. You're not, it's not a winning culture if your team isn't lifting you up especially after a time like that where just things didn't go your way. So I think that also comes with like accountability, is like it's tied in together with like support system mentality. You have to have the right team around you. And I think that also can go into when you're building a team, is having the right pieces in place, where, we're all going to hold each other accountable. As a business owner, you're not above everyone else. You should your employees should be able to like give feedback, honest feedback, because it's all about improving and holding, being accountable for your actions. So I think that's a huge part of accountability, and just like being a business owner. It's like you can't run away from stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny you had bring the team aspect on it, right? I think I don't think people realize when you're playing a sport, there's some people that don't even touch the field. Like they don't, those 4 years that they were in college, they might have played 1 or 2, 3 games, right? Because they were practice players, right? They were people that we went up against every day that tried to emulate the other. Like I played offense, so they would emulate the defense, right? Unless it was first team offense against first team defense. The rest of the time, the defense would be on their side doing their thing, and then basically the practice players would go against them, and then practice players for defense would be on going against us on offense. So, but the teammate aspect comes in is when we're so happy when someone goes just into the game to play, having that game experience, right? And I think you have to have that same mentality when you're a business owner, right? When you have a team and you see someone that may be struggling in your business side of the business, and then they have a win, or no matter how small that is, you have to recognize that, right? And that's another thing I thought of, is that, when that person hit the field the first time, I mean, all that excitement, you feel for them, but you also feel like that's how I felt when I first got into the game, right? And so, and when they make an unbelievable play, they shoot a 3, or they score a touchdown, the whole bench going nuts, crazy.
Yeah, you got the second string in playing, absolutely, or like freshmen, and you're like, say, a senior, and they have a great game. Absolutely, you're just like, I don't even care if I had a bad game. Like,
exactly,
they're helping the team out, and I'm gonna be there to support them. Absolutely. That's huge. It's one of like the best feelings, to be quite honest, is like seeing other people, especially if they've been putting in the work too.
Right.
That's another thing, is you're seeing them in the background. If we're sticking to real estate, they've been making calls, they've been following up, they've been, consistently taking action. And then you see like good news. It's like, oh, wow. It's like, it's your win is my win. And I think, we experience that a lot in the ChargedUp U family, is like, anytime somebody posts a win after win after win, it's like a proud, I'm sure Chris feels this all the time, him being like his course, but it's like a proud parent moment, even though I'm not a parent, but like, you kind of sense that because it's that community feel.
Yeah. I think when someone else's win is, just as exciting as you winning, I think that tells you something about yourself, right? It's not like, it tells you that you genuinely want someone to be successful, right? In whatever they're doing, right? And having that, goes back to the mindset of supporting other people, is very important in that step of, trying to support your employee, coworker, or fellow investor, fellow real estate entrepreneur. So, win when they win, right? So it's not always about wealth, right? So,
I love that. When they win. I think also kind of going back to sports is as well as like the competition aspect. Like we love to compete, but there's a fine line, right, where you're competing and then like you see somebody else post a win. And I know people like this where it's like you post a win and they're not happy for you, right? They're not there. The competition is like to the extreme, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, I stopped seeing it like, oh, I'm not keeping up with them. Oh yeah, they got another deal. Dang. Like it's just not, you can't do that because again, you're not, everybody's journey is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also learned this a while ago is like, I can't compare myself to anyone. And whatever they're doing, if they're doing something, I need to know what they did. I now kind of take it that way where it's like, I'm not even competing with them. Competing more is like, I'm going to take my action steps. I know my goals. I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. When somebody posts something, we're not, they're not my enemy by any means. Right. Like I'm going to reach out to them and see what did they do to succeed? Like, what did they do to get to that level? I'm not even going to think badly of them or be like, oh, here's another thing that they did. Why can't I do that? It's like, no, let me reach out to Tim. Like he just closed his deal. Like, hey, Tim, what did you do to get this deal? Because I want to get that. That's a really cool way, the way you did that. And I think I can incorporate that. So I think like competition, there's friendly competition where it's like, we want to be the best, of course. And then there's ones where they take it too far, where it's like, it's negative and they want to see your downfall. Unfortunately, there's people like that, like to keep it real. It's never going to be there. We have those haters out there. Like, I'm sure even us starting a podcast, us like, like changing careers. There's those haters out there that are just like, on the underground hating.
Yeah. And you can't let that, bother you or whatever. They're going to continue to do that. But I think, like you're saying, the competition is, in sports is real. Like it's sometimes, like you're saying, in the negative standpoint where you're going to blows basically on the practice field because, you may beat somebody on a route or, you might have dunked on them.
Or take somebody's spot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so there's going to be some animosity there. Right. And you just, and that's the thing is that instead of doing that, having that animosity, it's like, hey, that was dope. Like, how did you do that release? Like, show me how you did that. Right. And then explain, come to them more as, how can that help me? Right. Can you show me that again? Right. Just like you're saying, you call people, you call me, or I call you and I say, hey, how did you do this deal? Or, how did you, kind of negotiate this or whatever? And, what was their comps on that? And, so just, constantly learning and approaching on how I can learn from you and vice versa. Right. And I think, you have the extremes of extreme competitiveness where it's detrimental, or you have like competitiveness that you want to grow and learn. Right. And always be better. Right. So.
I love that. Yeah. I don't think we people talk about that enough. I think we talk about the haters, like for sure. But like, I think we should all be collaborating, not competing against one another. Like maybe compete with your goals, right? Like with yourself, but like once you start focusing on what other people are doing and try to compete with them, I think that's where you lose sight of your vision, your goals, and in general, like, because that's where like sports, we did have those people, those teams who we did not like, and they did not like us.
Right, right.
And
Always.
that it all, I mean, it typically stayed within the courts, right, within the lines.
Right, right.
But sometimes, like you run into each other. Like it never got to that with me, but like I've heard stories where
Hey,
you're
high school was a
outside the
totally
court,
different
meet me
game.
outside, meet me
Yeah.
outside, and it gets to that point. And especially when you're younger, people do stupid stuff. So I mean, it's just the bound of it. But it's like that kind of goes into. I can touch all the tips that we talked about too, and like accountability. It's like, hey, it's up to you to like have those like rules within yourselves of like how you handle it, integrity, right?
Yes.
And like
That's big. Yeah.
Integrity is a huge part. And I mean, if we're talking about wholesaling real estate, there's a lot of people out there that don't live by integrity.
Yeah.
And that's becoming an issue now, right? We're talking about that can be a whole other conversation. But that's because people are first off thinking about themselves. They're not thinking of like the bigger picture. But I mean, all in all, like competition, it can go either way, like you talked about, but as long as you're competing with like, all right, these are my goals, I'm going to conquer them. And I'm going to make sure I collaborate with the people I need and talk to people that are smarter than me. And having that, like you said, that accountability, that realization where it's like, hey, I don't know this, and that's okay.
Right.
Let me collaborate with this person because they're an expert in this, and this is where I need help in.
Right, right. So, G, I know we're going like 45 minutes now or so, but I want you to share like maybe a story from your sports days that may be funny or maybe something that, you totally, missed a shot, airball there, whatever the case may be, but you kind of like overcame that, or your coach kind of still believed in you on that. Do you have a story?
Yeah. There's plenty of stories like running through my mind right now. I mean, definitely in high school, and I even have some in like junior college when I played. Like I said, there was a time, it was my senior year. We were really good my junior year. We were like one of the top teams. And then like the seniors left, we became seniors. And so it was kind of up to me. I was like, people looked up to me as like the captain. I was a top player, and it was different. It was a different position than I've ever been. I've always relied on other people to be the leaders. And it's also like that imposter syndrome. Like, I didn't know, I'm like, am I capable of leading a team? Like, I'm quiet. People who don't, especially in high school, I was extra quiet. Like I I wasn't vocal by any means. And I think that also goes into, there's different type of leadership
absolutely.
Styles. Like I'm not the vocal, I'm not going to yell at you. But I am going, I'm a leader by action. I take action. I'm not going to talk a lot about it. I'm just going to take action. So that's kind of like how I led my team then. And we played so terribly one day, one game. Where it's like, I felt like I was alone. And so I realized, I mean, looking back now, my team, we were not on the same page. And, being high school, like you have those people that are they just don't take it seriously. It's just like, oh, whatever. I'm just doing basketball. It's fun. But for me, I had that mentality where it's like, this is a big deal. Because first off, it's my life. I'm hella sheltered. And these people, they have their social life and stuff. So I saw it. I was on a totally different planet compared to my teammates. So I had that challenge where it's like, how am I going to align us? I mean, I'm like 16 years old, 17 years old, like trying to figure that out. And I consulted with like my coach and who was like you said, who was a mentor. He was actually on the JV team. But we were very close. And like, I literally like cried to him on the phone after that game. I was like, because, high school being like, it was a big deal for me. And I was just like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what to do. And, he was like, oh, that's so funny you mentioned that, because last year, your teammate, who was a senior then, around this time also called me to vent,
Oh,
talking
wow.
about like, yeah, you know, like, I don't know, like what's wrong with me and stuff. And, you know, it made me feel so much better where like I wasn't alone. But he was like, you know, like
Mhm.
have a team meeting, like get them on the same page. It may become as a shock because you've never been that kind of person,
Mm.
and you're not that kind of person that vocalizes and holds meetings, like team meetings, because that's a whole other thing. It's one thing to have a meeting with the coach, but when the coaches leave and it's just the team and it's just your teammates,
Yeah.
like that's a whole other dynamic.
Yeah, it's a whole
um
different dynamic. Yeah.
yeah, so it was like I was so nervous. I was so nervous to like even like speak. But I held that. I was like, hey, coach, like I want to do a team meeting, just the girls, after practice. And we all got on the same page. I told the team before practice. We went into like a little conference room, and I was like, yo, like I said it in like the best way. I don't even know how I worded it, but like I was like, man, we played like shit. And I didn't even cuss
Mhm.
back then either. That's how like
Right.
much of a saint I was. And I was like, we played like shit. Like we played terrible. Like I know we're a much better team than that. Like we have
Yeah.
to, like I was just throwing words of encouragement, like, yo, come on, like we're a good team. And there were
Yeah.
some that was like, the hell, G, like what are you talking about? Like, who are you right now? But that was literally like my first like time where I stood up and spoke whatever I needed to say and got it off my chest.
Right.
Um, and that in and of itself was like a challenge that I overcame as well. It's like leading and speaking in front of people, which was like I was really not about that before.
Yeah.
Um, and so people, and then the next game, people were quite receptive to that. Like I think seeing people that you don't expect, like surprising people sometimes,
Hmm.
like is a huge thing that
Yeah.
people underestimate. So the next game, people came to play. There was a lot more energy, but then I played like shit. So it was pretty funny. My coach was like, "You're talking about, they're the problem. You're the problem right now." And like, oh, I had to get like mentally tough there too, because I was like,
Right.
"Yeah, you're right. Like, who am I telling my team like, hey, you guys got to step it up?" And then I
Yeah.
played like crap. I think I
Right.
missed layups. I was just not. I don't know what it was. It's just one of those games that happened. So we definitely bounced back for that, but that was one pivotal point in like my life of like my career wise, where, and there's plenty more, but where like I really stepped outside of my comfort zone,
Right.
and overcame that, and then overcame like the feeling of like I let people down, or you know, like getting a team together and getting on the same page. Because I
Mm.
mean, comparing that as a business owner, you're going to have to do that. You're gonna have to, if it's just you, check yourself and be like, all right, I'm totally off right now, and like give yourself your own pep talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it may be uncomfortable, you have to be real with yourself. Like, girl, you've dropped the ball on this. Like, how come you're not making the calls that you usually do, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely one story where I definitely overcame something. Be it small, but like
Right.
that's still a pivotal moment in like getting everyone, aligning everyone, and getting everyone on the same page.
Yeah. That's a great story. I think with me, it was high school as well too, right? So I was my sophomore year in high school. So what happened my freshman year, I started varsity for 5 games, and the story is that um, like 3 of the receivers on the team got arrested because they burglarized a house and videotaped it. Back then, I'm
Wow.
dating myself, right? On VHS, right? But they left the VHS recorder at the house with it taped, right? And so the police got it and they got arrested, and so they got suspended for 5 games. And so that's how I started as a freshman for 5 games, right? And then after they got back, they of course took their positions back, but the coach put me on kickoff return, right? So this was my first kickoff return, being back there, and we practiced it, right? I was cool.
That's like one of the hardest like things to do
Yeah.
is catching a ball that's like, you know.
It's crazy because, you know, I'm fine. I was fine catching the ball, you know, doing the assignment, whatever the case may be on special teams, right? So they score, they kick off to us, right? And the ball is kicked short, right? So it's going to be me in between me and the upman, right? And it bounces, and I go to grab it, and it bounces in between my legs and into the end zone, right? I touch it, so it's a free ball, right? So, so I go back, pick it up, and I run around and get tackled in the end zone. And it's a safety, right? And I felt like it was forever before I got up. My teammates came and got me up, and my head was just down.
I hope it's not me. Let me see. Let's see. Hope Tim isn't in the trunk. Oh, let's see. Oh, yep. Well, I really wish we listened into that story. I'm sure Tim will hop back on, talking about his football, I guess, challenge, what he overcame. So if he doesn't come in the next minute, you know, I do appreciate you guys that did hop on to listen to us. Again, sports, whether it's sports or anything, I think either way, whatever background you have, you've been in before, whether it's sports or not, I think it does catapult you into who you become as an adult, you know, especially, you know, if you did something growing up, and especially a business owner, if you want to get into entrepreneurship, I think sports is just great for building character, you know, discipline. There's just a lot of things that come along with it. So again, I really appreciate you guys. It's too bad. Tim will be on in a second. Some technical difficulties. I really want him to finish his story. But yeah, I think in general, we can probably all share something that we've overcome in our life. And sports has definitely helped me tremendously. And you know, anybody becoming a business owner, I think you have to have that accountability to hold yourself accountable, especially when you're just super tiny. It's just you, right? You could have to have that accountability and like knowing like, hey, I messed up. I did something that I probably shouldn't have done. And I need to correct myself, or knowing when to reach out to somebody, knowing when you need help, I think is a big part of that. And that mentality, that Mamba mentality, I really think that in some aspects in the next couple of weeks, we'll probably definitely touch that because that can be its own episode by itself. And then, of course, reconnecting with your previous teammates, or reconnecting with anybody you had in your past life, where you just never know what somebody's up to, right? So I think those 3 tips alone, we probably dropped a lot more gems along with that. I think that can definitely catapult you to be successful in life, and how you handle everything, and how you handle your business. Really exciting stuff though coming up. It's just crazy to think that 2021 is already at the end. It's just crazy. I just felt like we were just in COVID 2020 And now it's like been 2 years since then. So we're definitely planning in the next upcoming episodes to bring on some guests. And we're still figuring out like the scheduling wise for that. But for sure, the first week of January, the plan is to bring on, or at least talking about our goals and setting goals. So I'm really excited for that. Hopefully, Tim, I would really love to have heard that would have heard that story of yours. But we'll give it an extra minute for him to get the chance to redeem himself. See, we overcoming challenges right here on the podcast alone. So, I have his back for sure. So thank you guys again. I do want to give him a minute to hop back on and finish his story. Cause it's been real. It's definitely a real thing, in sports when you just feel like you just let your team down and, you kind of don't know what to do. So, I think I see him. So yeah,
Hey,
what's up, Tim?
some technical difficulties. Oh man.
It's all good, man. I try to hold it down. I don't know what I
What's up?
talked about, but we just went with it. But yeah, I wanted to hold on to hopefully till you hopped on to at least finish your story.
Yeah. So anyway, what I was saying is that the ball bounced in front of me, went through my legs, went in the end zone. I tried to run out of the end zone, got tackled, and it was a safety. And that was like one of my first kickoff returns, starting, on the varsity level. And my head was down. My teammates picked me up. It's like, it's all good. They patted me on that helmet. But I was afraid to look at my coach, right? Because now they're leading and we could lose the game, right? And so he just looked at me. He didn't shake his head or anything. He just looked. I had a glaze, and then I thought I wasn't going to go back out there. And then it was a chance where, special teams got called. He, he just pointed at me, told me to go out there. And then that gave me more confidence. And of course, I caught the ball that time and then, got some yardage and stuff. But it was a situation where even though I felt like the worst letdown because I felt like I let the team down because, now they're leading and we could lose the game. And but I think I felt the most when I thought, my coach believed in me and I let him down. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I had to overcome that. And that what happened was he still believed in me.
To put you back in.
Put me back in, right? And I think for me that was a learning experience. Even though I made a huge mistake on the field, overall he trusted me I really can do this, assignment, right?
Right.
And produce for the team. And regardless, I might make one mistake or two mistakes, but I have to go through that to learn on my own and see what my abilities and show off my abilities, right? And that was the thing is that that was, I guess, a really big learning experience. And like I said, you're 16 years old and you just let down the whole team by them scoring a safety.
Yeah, that takes a lot on your mentality if you don't have the right like structure in place. So I've seen bad coaching everywhere. I mean, I used to officiate basketball. So I've seen it, the way coaches talk to kids, just really bad. It's just really bad. So I'm sure there's other instances if you would have had a pretty bad coach, they would have stopped you right there. And you would have never known like, hey, could I have redeemed myself? And that kind of also builds the trust too, where it's like, hey, I know you messed up here, but it's just one play. Right. Get back in there, right? And show me and show everyone that it was just a fluke. Stuff happens all the time because people make mistakes. Like to think that we're incapable of mistakes is like crazy. And if you're handling things like that as like an owner or a boss or whatever, and like you can't make mistakes, like you're not building the right culture
Right.
that will take you to be successful.
Right.
So you were pretty fortunate in having a team and having a coach. It also always starts with the coach, right?
Mhm.
Because if the coach is looking at you down or isn't like doesn't trust or stops believing you, the rest of the team probably will follow through with
Right.
that.
Right.
So because he believed in you and he was like, it's just it's a mistake, it's all good, like let's
Mhm.
bounce back. It says a lot about
Yeah.
the culture.
Hey, believe me, I got reamed at film day. Like, you know,
Right.
so that's where, all the giggles and they start making fun of
Oh
you,
yeah.
and the
You're
team,
reliving the moment again.
yeah, reliving it. And then the worst part is they keep rewinding it slow mo. Like it's,
Right.
okay, click, click. You go back and forth. This is when Tim drops the ball. Click, click. So it's
Right.
crazy because it's funny about film, right? They replay the mistakes over and over and over so you can see it, and then it's a learning experience for everybody else too, right?
Right.
So they make sure they go over, like, hey, what are you doing here, right? You're supposed to do this, or you're supposed to do that, or your route is flat, it's supposed to go up to the it's supposed to go in between the safeties, right? So it's definitely a situation where when you watch the film, they go over almost every little detail. And each, in high school you don't do that, but in college, that's
Right.
where that's where we did have film day in high school, and no one took it serious. People were sleeping through it,
Yeah.
like
Right.
that. But in college, it was really serious,
Right. So
and
that's how
so
you get better. That's
yeah,
what you need.
yeah, right. And I think we had talked about this in our group call, is that, reevaluating our kind of losses, right?
Mm.
And why we lost the deal, or what the case may be. So
Right.
that's kind of like, I guess, film session for me. And I think I forgot about that, like, as going back and assessing, because we're always, moving forward and always trying to go on to the next. But there is something that you can learn from, not getting a deal, or something not going right in a project or something like that. And
Hmm.
then just kind of revisiting on what I could have done better, type of thing. Not dwelling on the mistake. That's different than what could I learn from that mistake, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a huge difference. And that's where, talking about where people give up, that's usually where you give up, as well as like something goes wrong and like they were this close to the finish line. I mean, we've talked to people like that too, like this close to the finish line and just something went wrong, and then they're like, F it, I give up. Um, and just stop right there, when it's really like we should use these experiences because it's going to happen. It's very normal.
Mm-hmm.
Even the top real estate investors, developers, whatever, they have deals that fall through all the time on a
Yeah.
bigger scale. And are they dwelling on it? Maybe a little, but it's like, they're probably evaluating like, all right, what went wrong and how can I avoid that mistake the next
Yeah.
time? I think that shows you what kind of not only entrepreneur they are, like just person, because you have to look at your life and be like, hey, I messed up there. I take myself, accountability of that, and I'm going to learn from it. Like here are some things that I made a mistake in, and I'm going to avoid these next time because I know better. So I think that's a big part of entrepreneurship that people just don't do enough of, is dissecting
Mm-hmm.
and like looking at the process and what they could improve on. And I think that goes, with film study, is like you have a visual of like what you did wrong. And it's also like studying what you could do better,
Mm-hmm.
and what you could improve on. And I mean, I think it's definitely not done enough, and unfortunately, in anything, and whether it's real estate or any profession.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, it's another good episode. G.
Absolutely. It
Love.
was good. We had a little technical
I know.
difficulties. I almost
Of
I had
course.
my ring on, like I almost like dropped it twice, getting a little excited. my foot getting a little excited. But it's,
Yeah, I'm trying to get the new studio all set up
I
and,
know, right?
and
I
everything.
love it.
So
It's
we'll
all
have
good. See, we can, this is a form of film, right? Like we'll probably take a look at this and be like, I probably could avoid saying that, or we can format it a little bit different. Like, we whatever action we
yeah,
take, we're gonna, study it and see what we can improve on. And
yeah,
I think that's what it's all about. But yeah, it's been super fun. So I'm very passionate about sports in general, and any way that I can talk about it with you and like see how we can integrate it with entrepreneurship or just life in general. I'm all
right.
for it. I think when you hopped off, I was telling the audience that we have some really exciting things. Hopefully we can get someone on next week as a
Yeah.
guest to like end the year strong.
Mm-hmm.
But we have some really exciting episodes coming up, especially in the new year, probably talking about goals and
Yeah,
things
absolutely.
like that. So really excited for that.
Yeah, I think we'll regroup and then see what guests we can actually have on for the next episode, and then just go into 2022 focused and ready to go, and and we'll keep on doing these live streams and tips, and even question and answers. So any Q&A down the line when we get some more viewers in,
Mm-hmm.
or just Q&A that people submit through IG, or just every day. Hopefully we can provide more value for you guys, and kind of tackle to make sure you get the bag in 2022.
That's right, man. New year, new start.
That's it.
I'm ready for it.
Let's go. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you guys again for your support. We'll be back next week, hopefully with a guest. If not, we'll keep it like how we've been doing so far. But again, for our viewers, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right.
All right, peace out.
See you.